So let's talk about adding and subtracting. This will probably be a serious review for you guys, but just wanted to kind of go over the main things in case you feel like you're getting a little bit stuck. As you've probably noticed, place value is something that we really use a lot in math. And why is it important to subtracting and adding? Well, it's important because when we are adding and subtracting, we must line up our place values. So your ones have to be in line with your ones, your tens have to be in line with your tens, hundreds in line with your hundreds, thousands in line with your thousands. So let's say we have 324 plus 11. So 324, the 3 is in the hundreds, 2 is in the tens, 4 is in the ones place. 11, we have 1 in the tens place and 1 in the ones place. So this is important because if we try to add 11 and we put one of the ones in the hundreds place, and we're going to get a totally different number. So remember how we line this all up? So when we take it one place at a time, you always want to start with the ones place. Always, always. So you do 4 plus 1 equals 5, 2 plus 1 is equal to 3, and 3 plus an imaginary 0 is equal to 3. So your answer is going to be 335. So always make sure, whether you're adding or subtracting, that you line up your place values. So let's do some adding 2-digit and 3-digit numbers together. So let's say I had 262 plus 14. Now sometimes it'll be written horizontally, which is side to side. Sometimes it'll be written up and down. So I like to set my problems up and down. So I like to put my biggest number on top. It just helps me when I'm lining up my place values like we just talked about. So I'm going to do 262 plus 14. See how everything's right in their place values. So again, always start with the ones. So 2 plus 4 is equal to 6. 6 plus 1 is equal to 7. And 2 plus our imaginary 0 is going to be 2. So your answer is 276. Sometimes you're also going to see a few numbers being added together. So let's say we had 333 plus 22 plus 1. So you're going to do the same exact thing as we did before. There's just going to be a few more numbers. So 333 plus 22, lining up everything in the correct place value, plus 1. So now I just have to add 3 plus 2 plus 1. So you get 6. 3 plus 2, 5. 3 plus imaginary 0 plus imaginary 0 is going to be 3. So your answer is going to be 356. So now let's take it up a notch, and we're going to add 2-digit and 3-digit numbers with regrouping. So let's see what that looks like. So let's say I have 105 plus 79. So I always start in my ones place. My ones place tells me to do 5 plus 9, which is going to equal 14. But you aren't going to write it like that. You're not going to put that 1 down there, because then all of your place values are going to get kind of funny. What you're going to do is bring that extra 10, that extra 1 in the tens place, and you're going to put it right on top up here. And then you're going to add that as if it was a number. So you're going to do 1 plus 0, which equals 0, plus 7, which equals 8. And then you're going to do 1 plus imaginary 0 equals 1 to get 184. So let's try another one. Let's try 952 plus 79. So I'm always going to start in my ones place. In my ones place, I have 9 plus 2, which is going to be 11. Remember, you put the ones place here and you carry the tens place over here. That is our regrouping. So now you're going to do 5 plus 1, which is going to equal 6, and then you are going to do 6 plus 7. 13, right? So same thing. You do not want to just write 13, because that's going to mess up all of your place values. Instead, you are going to regroup, and you're going to put that extra 1 above the 9. Now you're going to do 9 plus 1, which equals 10. So you are going to write it like this. And remember, if you have a number that's in the thousands, remember 1, tens, hundreds, thousands, your comma goes right between the thousands place and the hundreds place. So let's get working on some subtraction. Subtraction, remember, you're always making your number is going to be smaller. So when you look at your whole number, make sure that it's smaller than the biggest number that's there, and that'll be a good way for you to check your work. So let's try 274 minus 53. So 4 minus 3 can be done, right? So that's just going to be 1. Same thing, start in your ones and move to the left. 7 minus 5 is going to be 2. 2 minus your imaginary 0 is going to be 2. So your answer is 221. If they give you a problem that's subtraction, make sure that your biggest number is always on top. For example, if they give you 25 and 459, you have to ask yourself which one is bigger. We know that 459 is bigger, so that means that it has to go on the top, because you cannot take away 459 from 25. There's not enough numbers for 25 to give. So we would set this problem up 459 minus 25. And then we would solve. Start in the ones place. 9 minus 5 is 4. Go to the tens place. 5 minus 2 is 3. 4 minus imaginary 0 is just going to be 4. Now let's get into subtracting 2-digit and 3-digit numbers with borrowing. So that means that sometimes you won't be able to subtract the numbers necessarily, so you have to borrow from your place value neighbors. So let's try this one. Let's do 548 minus 97. So again, start in the ones place, always, always. Do 8 minus 7, that can be done, right? 8 minus 7 is going to be 1. 4 minus 9, we have to pause here because you have to ask yourself, can I eat 9 cookies if I only have 4? No, unfortunately you can't. So what you have to do is you have to borrow a 10 from your neighbor. Our neighbor is going to be the hundreds place. So what that looks like is I'm going to cross out my hundreds place, and that 5, I'm going to take 1 away from it. So he's going to turn into a 4. Now this 4 right here, I need to cross out, and I borrowed from my neighbor. I borrowed 10 from my neighbor, so I'm going to turn him into 14. Now, can you do 14 minus 9? Yes, you absolutely can. So you're going to put a 5 in the tens place. 4 minus imaginary 0 is going to be 4. So let's try another one just for good measure. So let's say we have 288 minus 99. So 8 minus 9 can't be done, right? I can't eat 9 cookies if I only have 8. So I have to say my neighbor is the one to the left, the place value to the left. There's an 8. He can definitely let me borrow some cookies. So I'm going to take 10 away from 8, my 8. And he's going to turn into a 7. And now I'm going to borrow that 10 from him to turn that 8 into an 18. So 18 minus 9 is equal to 9. Now I move over to my tens place. I have 7. Can I do 7 minus 9? No, unfortunately I can't. So I have to look at my neighbor to the left, who's my hundreds place, and I definitely can borrow from the hundreds place. So I'm going to cross the 2 out, turn it into a 1 because I'm borrowing 1 from it. And I am going to turn this 7 now into a 17. Can I do 17 minus 9? Yes. And that equals 8. Can I do 1 minus imaginary 0? Yes, I can. So I just carry that 1 down to turn my answer into 189. So let's try one of those problems where they give you a number that has 2 zeros in the tens and the ones place. And then we're going to subtract it by, let's say, 52. So can you do 0 minus 2? No, if you have no cookies, you can't eat 2 cookies, right? So then I have to go to my neighbor. That's my tens place. Does my tens place have any cookies to let me borrow? Unfortunately, no. They're out of cookies too. So then I have to go to his neighbor, which is my 7. And my 7 can definitely give me some cookies. So now that we know our hundreds place can let us borrow some numbers or some cookies, if the way I like to think about it, is now I kind of have to work backwards. So that means that my 7, I'm going to borrow 10 from my 7. So that's going to turn into a 6. That means my tens place is going to turn into a 10. Now we have to go back to our ones place. Now if we look at our ones place, our neighbor does have something to let us borrow. So that means I can borrow 10 from my neighbor. But what that means is my 10 now gave up some, so I have to turn it into a 9. So now let's see if we can solve this problem. Let's start in our ones place. 10 minus 2 can do that. That would equal 8. 9 minus 5, I can also do that. That's going to equal 4. 6 minus imaginary 0 is going to be 6. So my answer is 648. So now I want you to try these on your own, pause the video, and come back when you're done to see if you got them right. Did you get them right? If not, that's okay. Maybe go back in the video, try again. We all just get better the more that we practice, especially with math. Comment below with any questions that you might have or any videos that you might like to see, and happy learning, everyone!